Wonderful Life. I am Reverend Dr. Henry Lee Bates, coming to you live from Palm Springs, California. I am teaching from the wisdom of the ancients, the truth given to us by the Mastermind Jesus, and the practical mysticism that will surely set us free. You can find out more about this ministry by going to www.rev-bates.com. That's REVBATES.com, or by visiting the Way to a Wonderful Life channel on YouTube.com. Just type in the YouTube search box, Rev-Bates, the Way to a Wonderful Life channel, and you will find over 500 of our radio messages with additional recordings in both English and Spanish that you can listen to 24/7. We're going to begin our broadcast today with an affirmation. This is an affirmation that I'm choosing to read before every program, and I ask you to just sit back and take these words into your mind and personalize them to yourself. I'm going to read, "There's a power within you," but I want you to double think and think, "There is a power within me." Personalize it to yourself. There is a power within you that can lift your life to its highest level. It can change illness into health. It can bring peace amidst turmoil. It can bring success out of failure and victory out of defeat. It can bring companionship and happiness out of loneliness. It responds to you. For this is the power that dwells within you, and so it is, amen. And so it is, amen. So once again this week I'm going to go back to the works of the great Dr. Robert Bitzer in our 2022 spirituality class that I'm teaching. We had a reading from Dr. Bitzer's work, and I had a question from one of my students, and it really got me thinking that, I really want to bring out Dr. Bitzer's work a little greater in my teaching, because he was one of those teachers that actually demonstrated the principle that he teaches. In other words, he walked his talk. And so I want to bring that out for those that didn't hear last week's program or aren't familiar with Dr. Bitzer. Dr. Bitzer lived from 1896 to 1994. He was my first person I've ever listened to in the metaphysical teaching. When I walked into his church on Hollywood Boulevard, I'd never heard someone in person teach the way he taught, and it captured my attention and changed my life within days. Dr. Bitzer, like I said, he lived from 1896 to 1994. He was the founder and spiritual director of the Hollywood Church of Religious Science, was a master teacher of metaphysics and religious science. And one of his most valuable lessons in his book, Collected Essays of Robert Bitzer, is the documentation of his own personal demonstrations and how he used the law of mind to create a successful and prosperous life filled with accomplishment and service to the world. Dr. Bitzer began his ministry at the landmark Hollywood Roosevelt Hotel, and that's actually where I began my speaking ministry, my own personal speaking ministry, The Way to a Wonderful Life, initially at the Roosevelt and the Hollywood Room before establishing my work in Palm Springs. Dr. Bitzer tells us decisions give life meaning. Your growth is a result of your conscious decisions. They represent how you are directing your creativeness. Adjusting yourself to situations over which you have no control does not bring spiritual growth. Such experience would develop tolerance, patience, and forbearance, but it merely accepts the status quo and disallows your opportunity for conscious choice. So my student who read his booklet, I should say, All Power to You, asked this question. He said, Dr. Bitzer writes, give your desire form, and to choose those words which mean something to you. He said, I wonder if giving the same affirmation or treatment in a different language would make it either more powerful or less powerful. We have to speak our word to the word that we know, and that's what I told my students. The word that makes us have a feeling of the truth of the word. And then the more important thing that he asked was, he said, I don't understand the difference between thinking in and thinking into the substance. How does one know when they are thinking in the substance so they can pray or treat correctly? Treatment is a religious science method of prayer that's very specific and has a great concept to it. So what we know is that whatever it is that we're looking at, everything is substance and form. So whenever we do a prayer or a treatment or use our imagination, we're using this formless substance, And as we bring this formless substance into our mind, from ideas, from imagination, then we give it form. That's why the great Einstein said, imagination is more important than knowledge. Imagination is more important than knowledge. We must imagine things. And as we imagine things, then the things that we need, if we're convinced these things are possible, and that we can have the knowledge, we can have whatever it takes to have it, to create it, to do it, to be it, then all things come together. As long as we're not trying to take something away from someone else or diminish anyone else, including ourselves. It's just like before the Wright brothers flew their first airplane, or even decided to build an airplane, I'm sure they, through their imagination, saw an airplane flying. It's just like everyone. Bill Gates with his Microsoft Corp, which has made him billions of dollars. He understood the power of imagination. And he understood that if you could see it, you could be it. If you could see it, you can do it. If you could see it, you can have it. So we must put our mind focused on the thing that we desire the most in life. What is it that we desire the most in life? You know, sometimes people get so confused, they don't even know what they want. Or they have a desire, but they don't have any real feeling for that desire. Or they don't have any real feeling for that thing which they want. And sometimes people are so caught up in other people that they think their life can't be successful or their life can't be happy unless this other person meets their expectations of what they want them to do, to be, or to have themselves. So we need to bring our mind back to the intelligence that is inherent within us. You know, in the Old Testament, I say this over and over and over and over again, it was revealed in the mind of someone, we don't know who exactly, that we are created in the image and the likeness of this power that created all things, brought all things into manifestation. So we know that likeness and that image is imagination, is intelligence, is power, and is spirit. Spirit is mind. We have a mind, so we're part of spirit. So in his Law of Mind essay, Dr. Bitzer writes, creative mind is always creative. That is the law of its own being. It does not know that when we think thoughts of despair and entertain fear, we do not desire it to create these conditions. But it must obey our thought. Since we have the power to choose that which we shall think, we can reject the thought which we do not want to objectify and consciously choose the thoughts which will create the type experience which we desire. This choice must be backed up by conviction. We must get the feeling of our thought objectifying. It is this conviction or feeling that gives thought its power. Our negative thoughts sometimes carry stronger emotional feelings than our positive thoughts. Therefore, it is necessary to cultivate strong feeling regarding our constructive desire. As we think about it and mentally live that which we desire to express, our conviction about it will grow. Feeling gives thought the warmth necessary for gestation. Now, going back to my student's question, we're not thinking into mind. We are in mind. That's why the apostle revealed in the New Testament of the Bible, in him we live and move and have our being. In other words, in the Spirit we live and move and have our being, just like we live and move and have our being in the air that we breathe. We inhale, we exhale. That same air that's all around us, we're in it. We're not breathing into it, we're in it. It's in us. That's why Isaiah said, I am the Lord, besides me there is none other. None other. There's nothing. There's no power, no intelligence, no spirit other than this one intelligence, power, and spirit, this omnipresent, always present, omnipotent, all-powerful, omniscient, all-intelligence, that each and every one of us are created in the image and the likeness of, and we are in it. We are in it just like we are in the air that we breathe. The more we cultivate, Dr. Bitzer tells us, strong emotional feelings such as joy, enthusiasm, and zeal, the greater power we will give to our words. Through choice of words, we control our optimism and good cheer. We can expect things to work out right. We can anticipate good. In this way, we discover the law of right action, always operating to fulfill our positive, constructive words. As we think at the center of our being, where all is good, our power assumes form. Positiveness is the only law of being. Thus, our constructive word comes to fruition. That's from Dr. Bitzer. Now let's go back to my student. He had another great thought here. And the good thing about being a teacher is not only do I learn from the things that I invite my students to learn from, but I learn from my students. He tells us, he writes, as long as we look at the condition, we can never overcome it, can be taken too literally. He said he believes that the statement, as long as we look at the condition, we can never overcome it, can be taken too literally. I think there is a point at which our consciousness needs to express and thereby release the negative emotions in order to move forward. It seems paradoxical, but many times I have expressed in my free writing that I didn't know where my story was going, only too soon after received the answer. And as Ernest Holmes writes, to the man who can perfectly practice in action, all things are possible. I feel that this is a way of coming to the end of ourselves and to the beginning of the true actor. Holmes also says whatever method that removes the obstruction of thought is a good method. How can we walk that fine line in a balanced way and not energize our negative beliefs? Well, the way we do that is we understand that there's two forms of affirmative prayer. One is realization, which means we realize that we are in it, that we are in the substance, this unformed substance, and that our mind can form it. And the other one is a form called denial. We deny any obstruction. We deny anything that we look at that seems capable of taking power over us. We must remember that beyond the obstruction is the unobstructed. That everything that we can see, hear, feel, taste, or touch is temporary. It's up to us in using our law of mind, using the principle that we understand that good and only good shall come to us. It's up to us to decide in our mind how temporary the temporary is. Now, Dr. Bitzer tells us, he wrote this in May of 1994, the time to act is when you get an idea. Ideas do not appear at random or as casual experiences. Each idea has a pattern, a design, and a plan. When it appears, learn to act on it quickly. To ignore it or postpone it is to deprive it of its power. To ignore it or postpone it is to deprive it of its power. To be effective, the idea requires instant acceptance on your part because it may involve a time element. Perhaps it cannot be fulfilled for a week or on a certain date. Don't let that deceive you. When it appears, you either accept it or reject it. Although you may not think you can act on it on its due date, the moment you receive it is the time for action. Therefore, affirm this new project idea as acceptable by you this moment, that it is established in divine principle, and that everything necessary for complete fulfillment is included now, this very moment. Neglecting to take this affirmative, instantaneous action of acceptance can result in all sorts of delays. The immediacy of the idea's creativity can be delayed only by you. Lack of recognition is a neutralizing power. Don't let this happen to you. It is not necessary to know how the idea is going to be fulfilled, but it is necessary to know that divine principle knows how, and includes that know-how as it is revealed to you and unfolded in your consciousness. So keep your acceptance current. Keep your acceptance current. And that we definitely want to do. That we definitely want to do. There are times when we just allow ourselves to be deceived by the stuff that we see, or the past experiences that we've had. So many people believe in failure. So many people believe that whatever good they're going to receive must be coming from something outside of themselves. But all our good comes from within our own consciousness. It comes from within, from the power, the intelligence, the spirit. Open your mind. Let your imagination go bigger than you ever allowed your imagination to go. Don't settle for something that once you receive it within a few months, you'll be tired of it, or it won't give you any sense of enthusiasm. Go for that which brings enthusiasm and zeal into your life so that you have a love of life. Remember those words of the Mastermind Jesus. We're to love God with all our heart, with all our soul, with all our mind, and love our neighbor as ourselves. What he's really telling us is we are to love life. God is life. God is synonymous with life. Love God with all your heart, with all your soul. Love life with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind, and love your neighbor. That's the stuff that you see with your human eyes and feel with your human hands. Love that as yourself. In other words, don't put yourself down because you may be driving an old Ford Pinto with blowing smoke, black smoke every time you drive up a hill, or whatever. Let it go. Let it go. Worrying about the things or putting ourselves down because of the things our present condition may be presenting to us will not get us anywhere. Give yourself greater credit. Say, this may be the results of something that I've thought about before, but that thinking is no longer a part of my consciousness, and I'm going to lift myself up because no one else can lift myself up for me, and I'm going to think greater. I'm going to have a greater idea for myself. And I'm going to take this formless substance that's available to me and to every person on planet Earth, and I'm going to take an idea and use my imagination and make it so powerful that it cannot be anything but fulfilled in my life. And that brings me to Dr. Bitzer's essay, Be Big. It's included in his collected essays of Robert Bitzer. As I stated before, that book is out of print, and the only one I found was on the internet, was on Amazon, for like $90, I think it was. I'm not going to say it's not worth it. If I had not read it, I would buy it. I would have bought it after hearing Dr. Bitzer. So this is from his essay, Be Big. It says, you are surrounded by many beautiful things, most of which you take for granted or accept in a cursory sort of way. You accept them without giving them any deep meaning. You are apt to have that same attitude toward great truth. You give lip service but miss the deep meaning that would revolutionize your life. Mind is all. God is the only power. God is love. You could go on and on. You know the commandments, the axioms, the aphorisms of truth. You can recite them by heart. However, to prove these truths and live them makes a greater demand upon you. You are surrounded by a principle of wealth which is imploring you to accept it and use it. You need a personal commitment. Emerson said that if he took upon unto himself all the beauty which surrounded him, he would surely give it out again. Excuse me. He identified with the beauty of the mountains and became part of what he was beholding. That is what is meant by consciousness. You are surrounded by prosperity and great good. Consciousness reaches out, recognizes what it beholds, accepts it, and makes it part of your being. This develops a new terminology. You are surrounded by limitless good. You can affirm you have abundant wealth, and all of that can be true. You can have all these potentials of being, but you must use them. This is where consciousness comes in. Having all wealth and all health does not necessarily imply that you are taking advantage of what is included for you. A definite creative step is necessary. You have abundant wealth, and you work mentally to have the consciousness of what you have. You create the consciousness of abundance and acquire the consciousness of prosperous being. That will do the trick. You get the consciousness of having it. Consciousness is the key to demonstration. It opens your mind to limitless possibilities. You do not merely affirm what you have, you affirm that you have the consciousness of being successful. Someone may be waiting for you in your reception room, but this would not imply that you knew they were there. Consciousness connects you with the fact or the truth of being. You are, in your experience, what you are conscious of being. The whole universe is yours, but you can appropriate only according to your consciousness. All things that the Father hath are mine, but it is obvious that you can actually have only that of which you are conscious. From this you can see that you should pray not merely, affirm not merely for what you want, but for the consciousness of being what you want. The consciousness of being what you want. You live in a world of great beauty, and you can become conscious of this. Limitless abundance is yours, and you can become conscious of what you want. Consciousness identifies with your good and makes it part of your being. Infinite mind knows no limitation and manifests according to the law of consciousness. You are limited by your belief, but you are not limited by principle. Your potentials are inexhaustible, but your consciousness is the determining factor. You either have a little or a lot. The infinite does not care and does not restrict. Bigness brings consciousness forth. Smallness contracts. You are big. Think big. Focus on the big. Focus on that which gives you the greatest joy, the greatest feeling of self-worth, the greatest feeling of how wonderful life is, so that you can love life. Love life and love every part of life that you are living. Love it. Don't let anybody, anywhere, tell you that you are not capable of enjoying the best of times and the best of everything right now, right where you are. You are capable. But it's up to you to accept it. It's up to you to realize that it's your mind that gives to you. It's your law of mind that draws to you. Every good idea, every good thought, every piece of knowledge that's necessary for you to be, to have, and to do those things that you desire. So bring it into your own mind. That which exists within our consciousness, invisible mind or intelligence, finds its perfect fulfillment on the outer plane. In other words, as within, so without. We go back to the ancient scriptures. As a man thinketh, so he is. We go back to our good friend Job. That which I have truly feared has come upon me. Quit fearing things. Quit fearing life. Quit fearing that you may not be good enough. Say, I am good enough. I am good enough, because there's a power greater than me that's always working to bring forth through me, as me, and for me that perfect pattern of life that causes me to love this life with all my heart, with all my soul, with all my mind. And also remind yourself that when we are working to establish a condition, it is best to keep it to ourselves. Keep it to ourselves so that our consciousness will not admit a discouraging word or criticism, but all of our power will be carrying through our vision. Our vision. Everything is mind and action. Everything. Everything. Mind is spirit. God, this infinite presence and power we call God, for lack of a better word, is spirit. Remember, the Mastermind Jesus said, the Father is spirit. That means this greater, this all-encompassing, this omnipresent, omnipotent, omniscient. Intelligence, power, and spirit is spirit. And let's remind ourselves about on those words of Dr. Visser on his Keep on the Path essay he wrote. If you create something you do not like, you can change it. What you create, you can uncreate. If conditions do not loosen their grip on you, perhaps you are not in your effective place. Consciousness establishes its own condition. If things in your outer world are not moving fast enough, you need to clear your consciousness. Perhaps you are not doing what you truly want to do and are trying to use willpower to make things happen. Don't try to go through the stone wall. Go back in consciousness. Change your idea. Change your evaluation. Resistance, obstructions, and opposition can mean you are off your path. Get still and let the new idea come through. Find yourself on the right path. Not by might nor by power, but by my Spirit. Let God be you, for you, as you. And so it is. Amen. God bless you all for joining me today. I thank you for listening in. Tomorrow morning you can listen to The Way to a Wonderful Life at 7 a.m. Pacific, 9 a.m. Central Time, 10 a.m. Eastern Time. God bless you. God bless us all.